Hello and welcome. My name is Alan and we are back with more news and politics, this time for Tuesday, the 26th. Is that a 26th? Yeah, that's the 26th of November. So, we are starting out with an article from ProPublica. Don't know why I minimized that. That's what I wanted to see. Yeah. How Trump plans to seize the power of the purse from Congress. If you have studied civics, government, whatsoever for the U.S., about the U.S. government, Congress has always been the power of the purse. They are where the funding is supposed to come from. They are where the funding is supposed to come from. Wars and everything is decided by Congress. The president can do immediate strikes, but he can't declare a war. And there's other situations like this where Congress has the monetary capability. The president can do things, but he's supposed to be limited. If he can pull that from Congress, that's not a good thing at all. The second-term president will likely seek to cut off spending that lawmakers have already appropriated, setting off a constitutional struggle within the branches. If successful, he could wield the power to punish perceived foes. Again, not a good thing. Donald Trump is entering his second term with vows to cut a vast array of government services and a radical plan to do so. Rather than relying on his party's control of Congress to trim the budget, Trump and his advisors intend to test an obscure legal theory holding that presidents have sweeping power to withhold funding from programs they dislike. No, there's a reason the government is set up the way it is, because the founding fathers did not want a king. They did not want an emperor. They wanted a multi-branch system with checks and balances, but Trump wants to undo the whole fucking thing, which is a constitutional crisis and a fucking half. We can simply choke off the money, Trump said in a 2023 campaign video. For 200 years under our system of government, it was undisputed that the president had the constitutional power to stop. No, that's never been that way. You're a dumb fuck. Donnie Dumbfuck saying shit he don't know a goddamn thing about. His plan, known as impoundment, threatens to provoke a major clash over the limits of the president's control over the budget. The Constitution gives Congress the sole authority to appropriate the federal budget, while the role of the executive branch is to dole out the money effectively. But Trump and his advisors are asserting that the president can unilaterally ignore Congress's spending decisions and impound funds if he imposes them or deems them wasteful. No, that's never been a goddamn fucking argument. I'm telling y'all, this fucker's gonna destroy anything, any semblance of a nation, decimate the powers of the fucking Constitution, because he's a dumb fucking little shit. And people were stupid enough to fucking vote for him. What makes it so bad? We've essentially got a two-party system. Suck-ass, horrible, goddamn fucking evil motherfucking party. Republicans. Shit-stained, feckless, whiny, little, crybaby party. The Democrats. There is no left. There is none. Fucking stupid ass motherfuckers. Trump's designs on the budget are part of his administration's larger plan to consolidate as much power in the executive branch as possible. This month he pressured the Senate to go into recess so he could appoint in his cabinet without any oversight. So far, Republicans can control the chamber. Who can control the chamber have not agreed to do so. His key advisors have spelled out plans to bring independent agencies, such as the Department of Justice, under political control. Fuck you. If Trump were to assert a power to kill congressionally approved programs, it would almost certainly tee up a fight in the federal courts, and Congress and experts say could fundamentally alter Congress's bedrock power. Yeah, this is a constitutional fucking crisis. This man has put the U.S. in. Fuck dumb fuck Donnie. Anyway. Next story is from The Lever. Inside the plan to let Trump track millions of immigrants. The private prison lobby has been quietly pushing a drastic expansion of ICE's surveillance apparatus. Trump's re-election may be the final step. Yeah. They have made it clear as a fucking bell they want to export anybody who isn't a white-born American. For the last year, private prison companies and corporate interests have been quietly lobbying to place millions of immigrants under electronic surveillance, according to records uncovered by The Lever. Now that a second Trump administration will soon assume power, with a former prison lobbyist set to be his top legal advisor. There are signs the plans are already moving forward. Former President Donald Trump's victory on November the 5th was immediately seen as a clear win for the private prison industry. The stocks of the world's biggest private prison companies soared in the wake of the election, and investors openly salivated over the potential profits they could see from a Trump immigration regime. We're looking at a theoretical potential doubling of all our services, one private prison executive told investors on a November 7th earnings call. Doubling. Private prisons. This is like Geo Group. I can't really you can see Geo Group as one of the ones listed in the next paragraph. I don't know if you can see that far down or not, but Trump's latest pick for Attorney General, Pam Bondi, is a former lobbyist for Geo Group, one of the world's biggest prison companies. Another sign of the influence the industry may wield under the new administration. Yeah. Companies that see it as a way to make money to imprison, to have prisoners and keep them. Fuck you. I see it as a sign we have too many bullshit laws. A core profit driver for long-time immigration vendors like the Geo Group is electronic monitoring, the ankle bracelets, GPS trackers, and facial recognition technology that the government deploys on tens of thousands of immigrants across the country, threatening their privacy and well-being, as well as disrupting families and communities. Advocates warn such an expansion would intensify the harms that surveillance can inflict, often with little oversight. Over the last year, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE, has been pondering a massive expansion of its surveillance regime. Last fall, under the Biden administration, a proposal resurfaced to put many as 5 million immigrants under electronic monitoring, as the Lever reported. Since then, according to records reviewed by the Lever, GOP lawmakers, egged on by private prison companies and even the Heritage Foundation, the right-wing think tank, the corporate-backed right-wing think tank, that offered Project 2025, have pushed to drastically expand surveillance. Republican lawmakers proposed in June a combined $35 million increase to ICE's budget to bring millions of people under electronic monitoring. If you would put as fucking much money forward to helping feed the poor, house the goddamn poor, make it so fucking healthcare don't drive people into fucking bankruptcy, god damn it, that would be good use of 35. But to put it towards ICE, fuck you! Fuck you! It just shows you're racist shits! In the wake of the election, there are now signs that ICE is gearing up to bring these plans to fruition. As Wired recently reported on November the 6th, the day after Trump's victory, ICE issued a notice to private surveillance companies signaling that it was seeking new vendors for its flagship surveillance program, the Intensive Supervision Appearance Program. Yeah, America's went down the shitter since Trump came around. Goddamn, fuck that sumbitch. Biden's last minute gift to corporate lawbreakers. Biden isn't free of fucking accusations either. Fuck that cocksucker. A new Justice Department policy update says that even repeat corporate offenders can avoid prosecution if they make good faith efforts to come clean. Less than 2 months before President-elect Donald Trump takes office, the Biden Justice Department announced it could be handing corporations a get out of jail free card, and even if they have committed multiple crimes, earned significant profit from their wrongdoing, and failed to self-disclose the misconduct as long as the companies demonstrated they act in good faith to come clean. Those that make good faith efforts and self-report, even if they do not qualify for a full prosecution shield, could still receive substantial benefits, noted the December 22nd update. These potential benefits include agreements where the corporation is not prosecuted and credit for cooperating with the Justice Department's investigation. No, no. If I was in power, I'd go after these motherfuckers with every goddamn fucking thing I fucking had available to me. Don't sit here and hand lawbreakers the ability to get out scot-free. They're worse than any fucking street dealer, street murderer. It's these goddamn corporations that hurt more people than any fucking street criminal. Fuck these cocksuckers! The Justice Department made its announcement amid a presidential transition in which Biden administration Justice Department officials could be turned out of their government jobs and may seek new employment in the corporate sector where many of them already worked. The policy change could help soften federal prosecutions under Trump, including the ongoing investigation of billionaire Trump booster Elon Musk for potential securities fraud. He's sit there, and now there's so many things that are being found that he's guilty of goddamn fucking shit, but the motherfucker's gonna get away from it because he sucked Donnie's dick. Goddamn, I fucking hate this bullshit in fucking America. Let's look at some pictures. It's a selection of pictures. Roan Mountain, Tennessee. Lucky to live close. Thankful. Yeah. This is some pictures from the top of Roan Mountain in Tennessee. I lived nearby when I lived in Tennessee. It's a couple hours or so away now, so. But snow on the peak of Roan Mountain. There you get a good valley shot. As the sun rises. Could be sunset though. I'm assuming sunrise, so. But yeah, you can see the sun shining through. They're beautiful pictures. Anyway. Okay, we got some stuff from Ask Historians. U.S. military personnel swear allegiance to the Constitution, not the President. Even though the President's supposed to be the Commander-in-Chief, they swear to the Constitution and not the President. So they're supposed to be faithful to it. Only him if he's within bounds of the Constitution. Has there ever been a case of high-ranking military official who has contravened or ignored a command from a president because they determined it to be unconstitutional? I don't see a lot of cases get to that point. We don't see a lot of cases get to that point. A few high-ranking officers end up in this situation, and the armed forces rarely chooses to go to the point of a court-martial to deal with high officers who raise possibly valid constitutional arguments. Thus, the general outcome is not a flat refusal to follow orders, but to shift the order to someone willing to do it, or to hash out the same issue to an acceptable point. Mainly because there are almost no constitutional issues that come up while in direct contact with the enemy. And ones that don't are often flexible. Disagreements between staff officers that take place in the conference room are simply handled differently than a sergeant dealing with a private while being shelled. Most courts martial for the high-ranking officers. Most court-martials for the high-ranking officers, say a major and above, are for malfeasance or general crimes such as assault, though there are a few that ended up being for insubordination, such as General Billy Mitchell deciding to wage a PR campaign against the Army for their handling of air power and being convicted for it. Most military insubordination is not born of a question of constitutional power, but of strategic choice, such as the insubordination of Generals Taylor and Scott in the Mexican-American War, 1840s, 50s, that led to victory, and the insubordination of General McClellan in the Civil War, 1860s, that led to frustration. Importantly, for most of the nation's history, the armed forces weren't involved in a lot of constitutional questions, with the exception being the Civil War, mainly because Native Americans were basically not legally people. Article 1, Section 9, Clause 2 states that the privilege of the writ of habeas corpus shall not be suspended unless, when in the cases of rebellion or invasion, the public safety may require it. But helpfully doesn't say whether the president or Congress is the one that decides. U.S. Supreme Court Justice Taney, acting as a circuit court judge, ruled in Ex parte Merriman in 1861 that the president couldn't, but it never made it to the Supreme Court, and Lincoln just ignored it. Importantly for your question, Lincoln's suspension of habeas corpus didn't obligate officers to do so, it merely empowered them. And as such, I know of no cases where high-ranking officers got into a showdown about the constitutionality of that issue. If an officer didn't want to do it, he could just choose not to. What is more common are officers who liberally interpret the orders while they try and achieve their overall aim. One example would be General George Crook, who was ordered through the Bureau of Indian Affairs to return Standing Bear and Ponca back to the reservation in Oklahoma after Standing Bear returned home to bury his child. The order was clear at the time, wholly legal, but Crook chose to delay to let Ponca and the rest of to let Ponca rest and challenge the detention in court. I talk more about the story here, but I tell it to the point that Crook did not directly contravene an order. Rather, he used his judgment to delay an order that was he was uncomfortable about, but that was unquestionably lawful at the time. Another case that shows how one can contest an unconstitutional order and stay in your job could be the General De Los Carleton Emmons, commanding general of the Hawaiian Department of Executive Order 9066 was inactive. Rather than interning the 150,000 or so Japanese on the island, he basically refused, citing the logistical impossibility of relocating them to the mainland, of feeding them on the island of Hawaii if they were interned there, and their importance to the local community. he faced no repercussions for that. Importantly, while he felt the internment was immoral and possibly unconstitutional, he did not base his decision on the argument which may well have been preserved, which may well have preserved his command. Territory Governor Joseph Poindexter backed Emmons up and also refused calls for internment, which made his choice easier. Yeah. Hawaii is the furthest west and thus closest state to Japan. And so at World War II, at the time, there was many Japanese interned on the mainland. They wanted it to happen in Hawaii, but he was like, look, there is a huge population of peoples of Japanese origin that live here. They're important to the island. And the fact of trying to round up that entire population to intern them, it's not really acceptable. Just because of the monetary complications, the travel complications, everything that would be involved in it. So yeah. A case within the sub's 20-year rule, but illustrative of the other and the spectrum, was Army Lieutenant Colonel Terrence Lakin, who was convicted in a court-martial, dismissed from service, and sentenced to 6 months for refusing deployment to Afghanistan, claiming that his order was unlawful because Obama was not a U.S. citizen. I agree that he shouldn't have had to deploy to Afghanistan because there's many rules, but Obama was a citizen. Sorry, bitch. You chose the wrong standing to fight that. Sending out, deploying to Afghanistan order. God damn, people are stupid. War on the Rocks has an excellent article that points out the challenges of trying to determine the constitutionality of orders as well as the moral duty to refuse an illegal order. The article is aptly titled, "They Make You Take an Oath to the Constitution. They Don't Make You Read It." The article points out that there are constitutional issues. They aren't always obvious, even to people with constitutional law training. For example, the Supreme Court held in Hamdi v. Rumsfeld, June 2004, that the president may not suspend the right of an alleged enemy combatant who was also a U.S. citizen to challenge his detention to the federal courts. The Defense Department quickly responded, creating combatant status review tribunals, a new mechanism designed to comply with the holding. 2 years later, in Hamdan v. Rumsfeld, May 2006, the court held that these tribunals too were unconstitutional because only Congress, not the president, and his executive branch delegates had the power to create judicial bodies. Congress filled the breach by passing Public Law 109-366, the Military Commissions Act of 2006, which President George W. Bush signed into law on October 17th. Finally, in Boumediene versus Bush, June 2008, The court ruled that the Military Commissions Act was unconstitutional suspension of the right of habeas corpus. Pursuant to this ruling, a lower court judge ordered that Lakhdar Boumediene and 4 other foreign nationals detained at Guantanamo be released. Congress, who passed the Military Commissions Act of 2009, remedying the cited defects of the 2006 version as part of the year's National Defense Authorization Act. This is what happens when you have several branches of the same stupid mindset. A military officer who flatly refused to administer the law in those cases could quite easily have been court-martialed and convicted. Even the Supreme Court eventually overturned the law. They could have also been exonerated. It would depend greatly on the judge, jury, and whether the armed forces and the officer in question really wanted to go that far. Conversely, Lieutenant William Calley, the senior officer directly involved in the My Lai massacre, claimed that he was following orders from Captain Ernest Medina, who had ordered him to kill every living thing in My Lai, telling him there were no civilians there, only Viet Cong. Yeah, Vietnam War tragedy, the My Lai massacre. He was convicted of 22 counts of murder. Whether Lieutenant Calley was the most ignorant person in the United States Army or Vietnam, or the most intelligent, he must be presumed to know that he could not kill the people involved here. The United States Supreme Court has pointed out that the rule that ignorance of the law will not excuse a positive act that constitutes a crime is deep in our law. Lambert v. California, 355 U.S. 225 228, 1957. An order to kill infants and unarmed civilians who were so demonstrably incapable of resistance to the armed might of the military force as those killed by Lieutenant Lally, in my opinion, so palpably illegal that whatever constitutional difference there may have been between a person of commonest understanding and a person of common understanding, that difference could not have had any impact on the court of lay members receiving the retrospective wordings and in instructions as appellate defense counsel contend. The Supreme Court has often refused to wade into the constitutional questions without the president's war powers, such as pointedly refusing to take up cases that would have determined the constitutionality of the Vietnam War. A Strained Silence, Vietnam and the Supreme Court by Roderick B. Schoen details many cases that were simply never taken up by the Supreme Court. That was before the War Powers Act and various authorizations for global war on terror, where Congress has placed even more authority in the hands of the president. So yeah, we'll not read on, I'll leave it to you, but it's interesting as a conversation. Now, another Ask Historians question. My Indian roommate wrote his history paper at our Midwestern University using British spelling conventions as he was taught. Our professor removed every British spelling and told him to write in American conventions. Is there a historiographical, methodological, or epistemological reason for this. This was a really confusing situation. This course in our undergraduate program was a gateway course, or a course that you needed a C- or higher to pass, because this was our introduction to historical interpretation seminar. Our professor line edited his entire paper and removed every single British style spelling from his paper and told him that he needs to write using American conventions of writing and spelling in his paper. She never gave him a reason for this. His paper was on British buggery laws in colonial India, so she allowed him to keep the direct quotes from the laws in British spelling, but did not let him continue to write in his British conventions. He was left very angry and dejected after this. I was wondering if there was some meta reason for this, like the course we are taking and writing about was through the American education system, which might indicate certain schools of thought or philosophies incompatible with British education, or some other reason. Of course, any help in understanding why she was adamant about this change would be much appreciated. I feel like this is a better question for your college or university's dean, or perhaps the dean of students. But a lot of colleges and universities in the U.S. follow 3 or 2 writing guides, and they do specifically cover things such as proper quotation, citations, grammar, and language usage, and it should generally be explained at the beginning of each class which of the 3 styles will be used. APA style. There are the official guidelines put forth by the American Psychological Association, now in its 6th edition. This is the preference of the social sciences. So if you are studying sociology, psychology, medicine, or social work, you are going to know the APA style. MLA style. The Modern Language Association provides guidelines that you will be familiar with if you're focused on the humanities. So artists, English majors, and theater students will know MLA, as they have used this style for more than half a century. And CMS style. These are the style guidelines put forth by the Chicago Manual of Style, now in its 16th edition. The CMS style is predominantly seen in the humanities, particularly in literature students and those who study advanced segments of history and or the arts. But yes, usually papers will be expected to adhere to these styles that does include spelling issues. Failure to meet the directed written standards in a college course can often result in lower grades or even in a failure of assignment. Edit. I'd suggest speaking with the professor directly and asking if this can be submitted with the correct grammar for reconsideration, or go to the dean of the department and ask the same. If it's just a simple misunderstanding or miscommunication on the expectations of the paper's required style, they may be able to adjust the grade, although your roommate will likely be required to follow the requirements in the future with no further recourse. Yes, talk to the professor first. The head of the department is usually called the chair, not the dean, but it would be pretty rude and mean-spirited to go to the professor's boss before even attempting to speak to her about the situation. It's been a hot few decades since I was in college. I might be messing up the terms, but always talk to the professor or TA, teaching assistant, first. Then go to the department head, whoever that is. Then go to whoever is in direct charge of the students as the proper chain of complaints, and only go up a level if you don't get an answer or solution. So yeah. If you've never read English outside of American English, you probably don't realize there are some serious changes in the way British English and American English are. And other English-speaking countries might speak one way or the other, write one way or the other, depending on which side they accept. You know, Canada, Australia, and any other country that has English as a speaking language. It can often be the British style or the American style, one side or the other. So it affects spellings, word meanings, all kinds of things. Finally, from Ask Historians. Yeah, we had a few of them here. Why were Native Americans the only ones who had their children taken and shipped to boarding schools? Was there any attempt to ever take American-born kids from other groups and strip them of their own culture? I know black American families were often separated during slavery, so I can speculate that it might not have seemed necessary because they had already lost their connection to their original culture. But is there any information about whether it was considered? No response. Apparently there was one, but it was deleted. But it's an interesting question. Anyway. Let's look at some data points here. The U.S. is consuming fewer turkeys monthly, but each turkey is getting huge, visualized monthly from 1960 to 2024. So this 1960 in January, 60 August, 61 March. So it's like every so often, 7 months or so, and they show the turkey's average weight in pounds. And then monthly count. The average weight is the blue. So as you can see, in the start, they were some heavy. It kind of calmed down, but it slowly was building up, though, as turkeys got bigger. Probably factory farmed, or you didn't have to go out and hunt them naturally and stuff. So they would go out and feed them in their factory farms, and so they could get bigger. Now, this side is the monthly count. It started off quite low. Some points it was higher, depending on if you were closer to Thanksgiving, Christmas, or whatever. So we had the 60s, the 70s, it had a little growth. The 80s is where it really jumped. Into the 90s. And 2000s it started to come back down, but the turkeys were much bigger. So yeah, even now there's still more bought than back in the 60s, but our population is that much bigger, so. But the thing is, turkeys are also much bigger, so it's an interesting combination that it's worked out to. All I want for Christmas is a good price on a Christmas tree. Okay, this is from November 20th of 2023 to December 31st of 2023. So it's just 1 year of stats. But looking at the stats, biggest quantity is sold on Black Friday, the Friday after Thanksgiving. The next most, it doesn't drop by much, on the first Saturday of December. There's a big drop off by the second Saturday of December. And of course you have Christmas Eve. There's a little spike right here in between. But yeah. So those are how many are sold. And of course you can see the orange lines to mark the points. Black Friday, prices are up fairly high. They spike them before Black Friday to make them seem like, oh, look at the price drop. First Saturday, it don't drop much in price, if at all. The second Saturday, there's a little bit of a drop. With a week left, more than 90% of the stock has sold. Sellers reduce prices to empty the stock. So that's probably your best point to buy if you buy your Christmas trees the week before. So yeah. The predominant race ethnicity by block group in Houston. Now this is supposed to be Houston, Texas. Which, yes, it's right next to the Gulf. And you could see the smaller places within. This is Houston proper, and then you've got the little suburbs and stuff. Sugarland, one of the bigger ones. But population, the dark purple are your non-Hispanic whites. And that's when they're over 90%. So yeah, those are deeply white districts. Shade lighter is when they're up to 90%, 70 to 90. Then you go a shade even lighter, this light lilac purple. That's 50 to 70% white. And then the white itself is when it's less than 50% white people. Greens are your black people. Your dark greens, such as this area here and this area here, It's when it's over 90%. A shade different like this, these little strips here, that's 70 to 90%. This lime green, neon green color, 50 to 70%, and then the real faint greens like this and this, these little in between here, that's under 50%. And your Hispanics are your orange or brown. Over 90% are the deep dark, almost a brown color. Yeah. Hispanic 70 to 90% is just a shade lighter. So this up here, this little thing, this one. Then you got a shade lighter, which is like this. It's kind of hard to see between the other one, but yeah, and that's 50 to 70%. And then less than 50% are your real light orangey looking ones right here, here. And then Asian, which is grayish. They're rare to see. Over 90% is the dark gray looking. Here's light gray in this area, which is supposed to be the 70 to 90. But that's all we can see of the map. I don't see any actual dark gray. But yeah. But yeah, I always like these data points like this. It's interesting stuff. Now, from the Journal of the History of Ideas, Project Muse, the influence of the principle necessitas non habet legum. It's probably necessitas because it's Latin, but yeah. On Nordic medieval laws on theft. And essentially, necessary needs decide legality is essentially what it's saying. Which means, look, if they're starving and they need food, if they stole it, that's fine. You know, we don't like stealing, but still, you don't let people starve. Fuck your goddamn loss. You can swallow it. You've got food. Deal with it. The chapter on theft in the Norwegian Code of the Realm, compiled through the initiative of King Magnus VI Lawmender and promulgated by him in 1274, opens by declaring theft unlawful. However, the code does go on to stipulate that larceny would not merit punishment in the case of a starving man who steals food after unsuccessfully seeking gainful employment. The Code of 1274 then prescribes the penalties for petit larceny for first-time offenders who do work to support themselves. Thus, the Code explicitly distinguishes between starving unemployed persons who steal food out of necessity and those who steal despite having access to a livelihood. It was a long-standing and widespread norm as the code was drafted for the whole of rural Norway and remained in force well into the 17th century, the 1600s. In the article, we consider whether this norm could have inspired the canonical maxim necessitas non habet legem. Necessity knows no law. Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. If a person's starving, if they have no other choice, they shouldn't be punished for trying to stay alive. I always find people who are like, but they stole. They were starving, motherfucker. Go fuck yourself. Anyway, the King Army personnel driving a Fahrpanzer tank in Luschenkau in 1890. So yeah, one of the Chinese empires. They may have been the last Chinese empire. I can't remember. There's so many dynasties, but yeah, Qing Dynasty. Maybe it's Qing Dynasty. I'm not sure how it's pronounced. I'm not up on my pronunciations of Chinese dynasties, so my apologies there. But yeah, in one of the towns, Luschenkau, in China, they're driving a Fahrpanzer, which is a German-produced mobile anti-personnel tank. Essentially, yeah, you put it on the wagon. It has guns shielded in it, and it's like boodoof, boodoof, boodoof. So yeah. Port Arthur, Tasmania, circa 1880. It was founded in 1830 as a convict settlement and functioned as a timber getting camp, producing sawn logs for government projects and employing secondary offenders as its workforce. So yeah, 1830 is when Port Arthur in Tasmania. If you don't know, Tasmania's, I think, the little island just south of Australia. It's not huge, but it's a pretty decent sized chunk of land. It's like it broke off Australia and floated so many, just a handful of miles off coast. Is what it looks like, but yeah. But yeah, this picture was taken in 1880, 50 years after it was founded. But it was basically a timber camp. They're getting timber, logs, all kinds of stuff, or whatever. Employing secondary offenders as its workforce. So, not like your murderers and stuff, but those with the less dangerous crimes. And they're like, hey, you all go and you can work here. And of course, we know Australia was a British prison labor camp for Britain for a long time. So, 1924 eruption at Kilauea, which I think is on the in Hawaii, the volcano Kilauea. So 1924, you can see it spewing the ash and everything into the air. And then we have a picture. Amelia Earhart and her navigator Fred Noonan with a map of the Pacific that shows the planned route for their last flight. The plane in the back is a Lockheed Model 10 Electra, in which they disappeared due to navigation problems near the Phoenix Islands in the mid-ocean on the 2nd of July, 1937. So yeah. I'm trying to see if we can get a better look at that map. So it looks like it's supposed to be a world map, because that looks like it might be, well, that might be India. It looks like the Indian Ocean. But it may be Africa, and that's the Atlantic. But they say it's a picture of the Pacific, so you wouldn't think Africa. Besides, I don't see it connecting up here like you would with the Arabian Peninsula and... No. That's North America, the backside. California, Alaska, Canada. So that's what we're seeing there. North America and Asia. And this is the planned route. Looks like taking off from around San Francisco. And it looks like they were flying to Australia. Now, from the Columbus Dispatch, body cam footage. Neo-Nazis who marched in Short North claim to be victims of violence. Oh, God. Nazis were victimized. It's the worst fucking thing that can I can't keep a straight face on that shit. I laugh. You're Nazis. Get over it. A group of neo-Nazis who marched through the Short North this month were not arrested because police determined they were not the aggressors in the fight that broke out according to documents and video footage. Oh, shut the fuck up. In body camera footage Columbus police released Monday, the neo-Nazis told police they had never experienced a response like the one they received in Columbus. They said people pulled guns on them and threw cans and vegetables as they marched, waved flags, and yelled racial slurs. One of the officers noted that the man was covered in pepper spray. On the 16th of November, march drew stern condemnation from City Hall to the White House, but no arrests were made. A group of black men organized a countermarch the next day, following the same route in the Short North with a message of peace. In a statement, Columbus police previously said they could not find sufficient probable cause to file any charges against the neo-Nazis. Of course not! Because they're not left-wing enough for them. Because we know neo-Nazis are right-wing fucks. But they love sucking right-wing dick. Your authorities do. Go fuck yourself. From the AP, Warren Buffett gives away another $1.1 billion and plans for distributing his $147 billion fortune after his death. People may look at this and go, that's so nice, that's okay. That's what happened in the first Gilded Age, and I keep saying we live in the second Gilded Age, because this is very much what Andrew Carnegie did at the end of his life. He distributed his fortune out. Even though he was one of the worst bosses, made millions and millions and millions off labor of workers. So this is just like fucking Gilded Age bullshit that we have already seen in the fucking past. Don't sit here and start sucking his dick because, oh, he gives away $1.1 billion of $147 billion. Go fuck yourself. It never should have got that much to begin with, you asshat. Fuck you. From ABC Net Australia. Police officer Christian White found guilty of manslaughter after tasering 95-year-old Claire Noland. So yeah, there's clearly issues in Australia with their cops as well. A New South Wales Supreme Court jury has found Christian White guilty of manslaughter of Claire Noland, who he tasered at her aged care home in May of 2023. Mrs. Noland fell and hit her head and died in Cooma Hospital 1 week later. White will remain on bail for now, and the proceedings have been adjourned to tomorrow to consider the Crown's detention application. Yes, because that old woman presented so much of a fucking threat that the police officer had to fucking tase her. Clearly. What was she doing? Kung fu flips, motherfucker. What the fuck? Was like, yep, I gotta tase this woman. From NBC News, pilot known for animal rescue flights dies, along with one dog in Catskills plane crash. So a guy who spent his time rescuing animals by flight dies. And yet we see the big story for Warren Buffett. Siak Kim, 49, of Springfield, Virginia. See, this is a guy you are to give some attention to. He's trying to make things better. All Warren Buffett ever did was make money. From CBC News, study finds indigenous people cultivated hazelnuts 7,000 years ago, challenging modern assumptions. Researcher says evidence challenges narratives of wild, untouched landscapes in what is now British Columbia. From Reuters, Republican senator blocks promotion of U.S. Army general associated with the Afghanistan withdrawal. And if you need to know who that Republican senator is, it's Markwayne Mullin. Because when this first pulled up, I was able to go further down and read it a little bit, but now it won't even let me go that far down. Fuck you. Anyway. From Political Discussion, how will 25% tariffs on Mexican and Canadian imports affect America? Donald Trump has posted he will immediately poise a 25% tariff on all Mexican and Canadian imports, also an additional 10% tariff on China, until their crime and drugs stop coming across the border. Something they have no control over, you dumb fucking cocksucker. How badly will this affect Americans, the countries Trump is targeting? Will this have any bearing for the 26 and 28 elections? it will cause prices to rise. China will use this advantage to the advantage of its own markets, as it did last time Trump imposed tariffs, and other nations will impose tariffs on our goods, thus shrinking our markets. Isn't this when the U.S. farmers couldn't find anyone to buy the soy and such, so they had to ask for federal handouts because of the trade war? Yes. Meanwhile, China took its demands for soybeans to Brazil. And what people do not realize is these changes are oftentimes permanent, even if years later we reverse course on our end. Yeah, Donnie's a goddamn dumb fuck, but he don't care. And his dumbass cocksucking followers don't give a shit, because they're too stupid. I'd really love to know why farmers getting government handouts is totally cool, but welfare mothers are scamming the system. I think we all know why. Ask why we all have to pay higher prices for steel and solar panels to save a few thousand jobs, but God forbid we progressively tax the upper earners for health care for hundreds of millions. Fun fact, Project 2025 describes wanting to end crop insurance for small farmers. There was a recent interview on a financial broadcast where the farmers said their market share has never come back close to what it was. They might still be on federal handouts because once you're addicted, it's hard to withdraw. Yeah, Trump's just going to make fucking prices in the U.S. soar, and effectively what Biden had to put under control was Trump's fault of an economy, but too many of his dumbass cocksucking sons of bitches are like, no, no, no. Yes, it fucking was Donnie's fault. I can't help you're a dumb fuck. From The Independent, Eric Trump demonstrates in 30 seconds he doesn't have a clue how tariffs work. You want to allow drugs to come through our southern border? We're going to tariff you, you son of President-elect, tells major U.S. trading partner. You think the goddamn Mexican government gets money from these drug dealers? You're a goddamn moron! Why? Why is there so much stupid in this fucking world? From the AP, Mexico suggests it would impose its own tariffs to retaliate against any Trump tariffs, making our goods in America harder to fucking sell. Welcome to what fucking tariffs do. From Salon, Truth Social rant suggests Donald will intentionally raise prices for the American people. Donald Trump, who won in part due to inflation that peaked 2 years ago, campaigned on a policy of making everything from vegetables to televisions more expensive, suggesting a plurality of voters either did not understand tariffs and the rippling economic impact of raising taxes on imported goods, or simply did not believe the Republican candidate would follow through. No, they're just dumbass cocksuckers. In a Monday evening post on Truth Social, the president-elect reaffirmed that, yeah, he's serious. On January the 20th, as One of my first executive orders, I will sign all necessary documents to charge Mexico and Canada a 25% tariff on all products coming to the U.S. and its ridiculous open borders. Guess what, cocksucker? That does nothing about the goddamn borders and only causes prices on goods to raise on Americans, 'cause you're a dumb fuck. From The Guardian, 2/3 of Americans think Trump tariffs will lead to higher prices, Poe says, and they're abso-goddamn fucking-lutely right. Exclusive, a Harris poll raises questions about the popularity of one of Trump's key economic policy platforms. 2/3 of Americans think Donald Trump's tariff plans will only add to rising costs if implemented, and many are planning purchases ahead of his inauguration, anticipating higher prices, according to a Harris poll conducted exclusively for The Guardian. Trump declared on Monday evening that he would impose 25% tariffs on all goods from Canada and Mexico, and an additional 10% on China if they did not stop what he claimed was illegal immigration and fentanyl smuggling. Do you not goddamn fucking understand smuggling? What that fucking means, you dumbass cocksucker? God, he's so stupid. And people are like, he's a jade. But although he has called tariffs the most beautiful word of the dictionary, about 69% of Americans think tariffs on imports will lead to higher prices, according to the poll. Majority of Democrats, 79%, Independents, 68%, and Republicans, 59%, all believe that tariffs will increase the prices of the goods they pay for the U.S. Nearly the same percentage of respondents said the tariffs will have a significant effect on what they can afford. Welcome! This is what you voted for! This is what you fucking voted for! Axios. Trump guitars copy Gibson's Les Paul design per a cease and desist notice. So yeah, apparently Trump leaned into branding bonanza ahead of his return to the White House, hawking everything from Trump Bibles to sneakers to perfume. And apparently one of these is electric guitars. And apparently they mimic the design of Gibson's iconic Les Paul. From Tech Dirt. Republicans helping poor people and minorities afford broadband internet is illegal now. Sorry. We've noted more than once that the 2021 infrastructure bill was poised to deliver $42.5 billion in broadband subsidies to the states. A lot of that money will be thrown in the lap of incumbents with long histories of empty promises, but a lot of it will be leveraged for genuine and major improvements in broadband options by ISPs, municipalities, cooperatives, and utilities. Republicans, of course, voted against these improvements. At the same time, Republicans have lied repeatedly to their constituents and tried to take credit for them. They've also been whining for much of the last year about some pretty flimsy requirements requiring ISPs that ISPs have to try to make sure there's a slower, more affordable option for poor people. The gall! Like I said, Republicans don't give a shit about people. And yet there's dumbasses who are like, they like me! No, they don't. You're just a fucking moron. From CNBC, Trump's proposed tariff increases would boost inflation by nearly 1%, Goldman Sachs estimates. On Monday, Trump said the social media site Truth Social that he would impose an additional 10% tariff on goods from China and 25% Canada and Mexico. The three countries in question account for 43% of U.S. goods imports, and the tariffs would result in slightly less than $300 billion in revenue annually, according to Goldman Sachs calculations. Again, Trump is a dumb fuck. He's one of the dumbest motherfuckers in the fucking world. It remains to be seen whether the tariffs will actually be implemented at the levels Trump proposed, or what exceptions might be made. No, he's a dumb fucker who thinks he knows things because his dumbass followers will be like, hey, he's a genius! From the Hill, Homan, I guarantee funds will be cut from states not cooperating on deportation. Fuck you. From Molecular Psychiatry, Nature.com. Markers of positive effect in brain state synchrony discriminate melancholic from non-melancholic depression using naturalistic stimuli. The idea is they may have found, melancholia has been proposed as a qualitatively distinct depressive subtype associated with the characteristic symptom profile, psychomotor retardation, profound anhedonia, and better response to biological therapies. So yeah. When I first pulled up the article, but what it was talking about is essentially it's supposed to be a deeper, longer-lasting depression, and what they're calling it now, melancholia, that doesn't respond in the same way that other forms of depression do to certain treatments and medications. From the University of Cambridge, scientists warn of invisible threat of microplastics as global treaty nears completion. As the UN meets this week to finalize the Global Plastics Treaty, researchers warn that the agreement could fail to address one of the biggest threats to marine environments: microplastics. It's like people don't give a shit about the fucking planet. Nah, it's all about money, motherfucker! IOP Science, a mini-body quantum model, is proposed as the mechanism responsible for accelerating rates of heat uptake by oceans as anthropogenic heat inputs rise. So yeah. Maybe it's JOP, JOP instead of, well, that's an I instead of a J. but it's supposed to be Journal of Physics. Anyway, a recent many-body quantum approach to thermal radiation reveals that the energy capacitance of heated water is about twice its heat capacitance, due to energy stored as local hybrid pairs of photons coupled resonantly to local matter excitations with pair density weighted by mass density. Energy exchange between the photons and localized dipole excitations inside water at steady temperature T occurs at sites where the hybridization potential within the Hamiltonian couples local oscillation modes to free photon modes. Photon modes in both directions are phase retarded at exit sides of the hybrid site. Optically sharp variations with frequency in the index of refraction and photon density of states follow. Exit spectral intensities at equilibrium temperature T carry quantum information on the energy density of matter excitations coupled to photons, while occupied hybrid sites are the source of all free photons and internal spectral intensities. The matter excitations coupled locally are the of photons are distinct from those that define specific heat, but in water both arise from molecular oscillations. The energy capacitance of hybrid pairs depends on the mass density and is independent of heat capacitance, which sets temperature T. CEXT energy capacitance is sensitive to temperature and doubles as a capacitance of energy and quantum information. Expressions for energy capacitance are derived from the first principles and applied to water. The density of occupied hybrids is amplified near surfaces by photons reflected off the surface, which create new hybrid pairs but not extra heat. Energy capacitance gets dTT/dt prior to a new equilibrium state emerging. I was trying to see if they had that model listed in here anywhere, but I don't see it. Anyway, hybrid pairs, but not extra heat. Energy capacitance plus what was HT heat capacitance sets dT/dt prior to new equilibrium state emerging. After input heating rate dQ/dt is switched, being atmospheric intensities then raise the temperature dQ/dt and heat capacitance and okay, first is energy capacitance and heat capacitance. The times available to cool overnight are fixed so that a rising capacitance adds to energy stored at an accelerating rate. So yeah, even at a molecular level, it's causing the heat to really boom in the ocean and make the oceans hotter. The gist, yeah. Dozens of recordings reveal high-ranking Brazilian officers pressured Bolsonaro to stage a coup. Yeah. From The Guardian, for the first time in history, we could be looking at a genuinely right-wing European Union. Ursula von der Leyen knows that her new commission will need support from the kind of hard-right parties it once swore to shun. From The Guardian, writers condemn startups' plans to publish 8,000 books next year using AI. Publisher spines will charge authors between $1,200 and $5,000 to have their books edited and distributed with the help of artificial intelligence. Fuck you. You cannot make everything fucking artificial intelligence. You're gonna fuck over the fucking world with your dumb fuckingness. Writers and publishers are criticizing a startup that plans to publish up to 8,000 books next year using AI. The company, Spines, will charge authors between $1,200 and $5,000 to have their books edited, proofread, formatted, designed, and distributed with the help of AI. Independent publisher Cannon Gate said these dingbats don't care about writing or books. Spines is charging hopeful would-be authors to automate the process of flinging their book out into the world with the least possible attention, care, or craft. Yeah. There are things AI can be useful for, but there are still things we need people for. Otherwise, you're going to have to fucking guarantee people a monetary offering just to exist and have no job. Because you're going to fucking take every goddamn job for what? For what? Fuck you. Fuck you. From Popular Mechanics, Earth has tilted 31.5 inches due to groundwater pumping. That shouldn't happen. Can we fix it back? Yeah. When humans pump groundwater, it has a substantial impact on the tilt of the Earth's rotation. Additionally, a study documents just how much of an influence groundwater pumping has on climate change. Understanding this relatively recent data may provide a better understanding of how to help stave off sea level rise. Yeah, again, people don't give a shit about our fucking planet. It's all about that goddamn money, which isn't even fucking real. Oh yeah, remember the Nazis who were crying, "Oh, we were attacked and assaulted." Columbus jackboot Nazis detained in a U-Haul. Humiliation ensues after one accidentally sprays himself with pepper spray. Yeah.
Oh! I gotta take this off my head. Is that alright?
Alright, you're gonna hold on?
That just pinched in.
I know, I saw.
I gotta take it off. I'll set it right there.
Can I get another officer on the other side? Can I get another officer on the other side? Hey, slowly. Stop.
It's tight, I can't.
Stop.
I'm trying to take the pepper spray off my head. I'll set it right up there.
Dumbass.
Bro.
He participates in a Nazi march and then he pepper sprays
I
himself.
slowed you down for my safety and your safety, okay? Bro. No. Give me another mask.
Give me another mask.
Do you need a medic? No. You just took that square in the face, man. You sure you don't want a medic? I'll let you know. And what did I say earlier? You were gonna get him before you got me, right? Yeah. You sure you don't want a medic? No. Alright. I know you just got maced in the face.
Hey, so what did the officer
Alright. Are you guys wanting an incident number for this?
Nope.
You guys don't want an incident number?
Dumbasses shouldn't play with weapons and pretend they're some big army. Fuck neo-Nazis.
That was pretty interesting. Hey, that wasn't nice.
Oh, good. Goodness gracious. Maddie. Alright. Head at the top it says, this is so fucked on so many levels. Mehdi Hassan is apparently interviewing someone here.
Is killing 274 Palestinians, including many children, an acceptable price to pay for the freeing of 4 Israelis?
Like I said, it's an unacceptable price, but I think it's a price that has to be paid.
Wow. So if you're saying that to get free people from the clutches of horrible captivity, hostages, to free them, you have to pay a price, right? It's a horrible price. Does that ratio work the other way? How many Israelis can Palestinians kill in order to free Palestinian detainees who are currently being tortured in Israeli captivity, some of them being raped to death, according to the New York Times last week? Can they kill 200 Israelis to free 4 Palestinians who are being tortured in an Israeli prison?
I think what I'm trying to say is, if you represent the Palestinian people, you represent the Israeli people, we look at this quite differently. I don't want to
I know you do, which is why I'm asking the question, Congressman. I understand that you see it differently. A lot of people watching at home say, why? Why aren't all lives equal?
Exactly. Get him, Mehdi. Get his ass. Fucking love that shit. Okay. Can this Twitch superstar be the left's Joe Rogan? He says no thanks. Honestly, we shouldn't have a Joe Rogan of the left. Fuck Joe Rogan. He's a dumb dick. Don't need his ass. But yeah, they're talking to Hassan Piker. I love Hassan. I watch his the video clips they got of him on YouTube fairly often, so yeah.
This is Hassan Piker.
This is my dog Kaya. I thought you legitimately were going to work out.
I can do some weights. He's a social media superstar with almost 3 million followers on the video streaming platform Twitch.
They're eating the pets.
So this is that whole masculinity
This
thing
is
we were talking about.
interview done from
And he's part of a
CNN. They'll
growing
probably
group
wanna
of
try to claim
streamers
this
and
'cause I don't make no
podcasters
money
reaching
from it, but they
young
don't
men
want me to make money
online,
from it.
a space
Fuck
Trump
me.
tapped into to reach young male voters.
Punch in, then you won't be able to see that he's not doing any weights.
Oh my
But Hassan
goodness.
is not a Trump supporter. He's a progressive, a fan of Bernie and AOC. The Democratic Party even invited him to the DNC in August. One thing we've been
Whether
hearing for
you
weeks
dislike him or
now
not,
is that the left
he
needs a Joe
says
Rogan.
what's correct.
I don't think that
It doesn't matter anything
the
else
Democratic
about
Party
his
can
past.
podcast itself out of this issue. Joe Rogan, he endorsed
Because
Bernie
what he
Sanders in
says
2020.
is fucking correct.
Maybe they should do an autopsy on why
Well,
he
honestly.
left the party.
Yeah. Joe
I like
Rogan
to
used
work
to
out.
be so
I'm very brony.
fucking
A lot of people
left
look
wing
at the
because he saw it
opposite
as
of that
common
and they
sense,
don't
but he's
like
been
it.
so
They
brain
think
broken
like, oh well, he's
by
a
the
little
right
toxic, isn't he?
wing
And they don't really listen to what I have to say because
talking
I'm
heads.
significantly more
that
progressive than
He
the average
believes
Democratic
this bullshit.
campaign.
It's
I've
like,
heard you say when it
what
comes
the
to
fuck
stuff
went
that
on with you,
guys
Joe?
like.
Why are you so
You seek
stupid
that
now?
stuff out online,
Why
whether
are
it's
you
watching
a
a streamer,
dumb
whether
fuck?
it's watching guys talking about working
It's
out
like,
and fitness. You
no,
say that the right wing
Shapiro's
just dominates
stupid.
that space.
Yeah.
Fucking
Why?
all these
Well,
others.
I think
Trump's a
that's why I started
goddamn
on
moron.
Twitch, right? I know
Jordan
for a fact
Peterson's
that
a
the video
dumb
game
dick.
space is like
Name
people who
any other
consume,
fucking right winger, they're all
this
goddamn
culture,
stupid.
people
But
who are
Joe's
part of
like,
this culture,
I like to have it by myself.
I wanted to showcase the people that like, no, you can be a
I'm
progressive
gonna go
person,
ahead
you can be a left.
end this here because I just talking to point. I like Hassan, I love Hassan, but I don't care for CNN because they will try to copyright claim it because they're bastards. Fuck CNN. Anyway, next video. I'll be posting these in the description box as always anyway. From this video, the next time anyone defends Benjamin Netanyahu, show them this video. Even Obama and ex-French President Sarkozy admitted that he's a liar. Yeah. Trump's a damn moron.
An open mic during last week's G20 summit caught President Obama and French President Nicolas Sarkozy complaining about Israel's prime minister, according to a report by Reuters. I cannot bear Netanyahu. He's a liar, said Sarkozy. Obama, according to a French interpreter who was translating his remarks, replied, "You're fed up with him, but I have to deal with him even more often than you." The president didn't exactly come to the defense of Netanyahu, whom he most recently saw at the UN in September.
Let me preface these remarks. Never, ever believe Israeli figures.
Never ever believe Israeli figures.
To know that the Israelis
Unfortunately, people are like, you gotta love Israel, it's part of the Bible. Look, I don't believe in your magic sky daddy.
so you can't believe
And what they're doing is the height of genocide and criminality. And I point that shit out. I don't give a shit what else you want to say. Okay, in this video, Zionists are criminals who shed the blood of children, women, and the innocents. Fuck Israel. The land of demons. Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, the right-wing grifter, tells the right-wing militia leader Ross Glick of Betar, USA that he loves their bomb threat against University of Pittsburgh chapter of Students for Justice in Palestine. Glick was previously arrested for distributing revenge porn of his ex-girlfriend. And Fetterman's like, I like the cut of your jib.
We don't believe in the funding. We know that they get funding from the various organizations. So we would like report, they recently, SJP made some negative claims about us about a joke that we made about beepers. We were recruiting on campus, and it got blown way out of proportion.
You made a joke about beepers?
We made a joke about beepers. What's that?
What was the joke?
So one of our colleagues posted on Instagram and said that we were coming to Pittsburgh, we were opening a Beitar chapter, and we were recruiting. And it was
what was the joke?
So the off-cap, so in the joke it said we were going to be handing out beepers to SJP members. So it was.
So what did it say?
That's all it said.
That's it.
The message.
That was the whole message.
There was no message.
And then Meta banned us.
Something very clear, like for the beepers thing. I mean, I love it.
Fuck you, Fetterman. You went from being a progressive to being one of the goddamn right-wing cock-sucking sons of bitches. Fuck you. Fuck you to the highest goddamn degree. I hate these cocksuckers who are such goddamn fucking liars like John Fetterman. He can go and fuck himself. Final video. They, the disabled, should die. Donald Trump to Fred Trump III. Every accusation, a confession, distraction. I'm not sure about the third. I know Fred Trump was supposed to be the name of Donald Trump's father. I don't know if he was the third or not, but yeah. Anyway.
One who not only wrote the book on the Trumps, but is a Trump himself. Fred Trump III is the nephew of Donald Trump and the author of All in the Family, The Trumps and How We Got This Way, which takes a deep dive into the inner workings of the Trump family and one Trump's quest to differentiate himself from the rest. Country. But let's just talk about disability rights and your son. You write in your book that the motivation for the book came from an interaction you had with Donald Trump when he was in the Oval Office. What was that conversation? What did Trump say to you? Share that with our viewers.
May of 2020, we were all together in the Oval Office with Alex Azar and Brett Giroir and several other governmental officials. And when the meeting ended, and we weren't just saying just throw a couple of $1 billion at this problem. We knew that we could try to make our cause more efficient and get better services, again, for this incredibly large population of Americans. And what Donald said to me when he called me back into the office, these people, meaning the disabled, the cost, they should just die.
Wow.
That's what he said, and there was a witness there for that. And I'm not happy to repeat that, and I want to get past that.
What was your reaction in the moment? This is your uncle. This is your uncle. This is not just the president. This is not just a man who's hated by half the country. This is your uncle saying this to you. What was your reaction in that moment?
I was just happy that the people that I had brought down with me, equally alive, they were not in the office to hear this. It was devastating for me to hear that. And then, yes, 3 years later, when he said the same thing, but pointedly about my son, his grandnephew.
What did he say then?
We were talking about William on the telephone, and he said, William doesn't recognize you. He should just die and move to Florida. Me and my wife moved to Florida. And my reaction was, from somebody who had never met William, Donald had never met William, I said, no, he does recognize me. But again, I
do want to talk about moving forward, but I got to deal with this specific point here, because I'm someone who's very critical of the president-elect, and I've called him a sociopath in the past, and people think it's just verbal abuse. You've heard the phrase TDS, Trump derangement syndrome. Liberals are just obsessed with demonizing Trump. They call him Hitler. They call him a sociopath. I don't know how else to respond when you, a family member, are telling me that he said, maybe your son should just die. That is not a normal thing that normal people say.
There is a TDS, but it isn't Trump derangement. It's Trump delusion syndrome, where his followers think he's fucking God, fucking Jesus, and does everything fucking right.
Least of all his grandnephew. But he did, and he said it about other people.
Women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
No,
and that's why I did that.
You're a goddamn dumb dick.
The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born, is okay. And that's not okay with me, hence the vote.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact.
Yeah. And I know people who took what he said at face fucking value, cause they're goddamn dumb cock-sucking some bitches. They think he's a fucking genius, and he's a fucking dumb shit. I live in an area surrounded by these cocksuckers. I will not move because I love this town. I love this area, but some of the fucking people are dumb ass motherfuckers. But what are you going to do? You're surrounded by the goddamn stupid. Anyway, this video's been long enough. I've almost made it another fucking 2-hour video. Jeez almighty. As always, educate thyself. Think, read, study, learn. Someone touches something you have trouble believing. Ask them to cite their sources. I'll be putting my links and sources in the description box below the video. Thank you all for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, later.